as a result of something that a child is found to have done. In 1997, in its first report on children's human rights, the Government of India very clearly stated that there is no question of imprisonment of children, there is no question of life imprisonment of children, and there is no question of capital punishment for children. It was 1997. Not apropos of any particular case, but as a general statement on rights. We have problems in defining who is supposed to come under these types of protective statements. We have no uniform legal definition of who a child is. There is no legal definition of a child. It is still variously in different laws. According to my information, a child can be held or considered criminally responsible at the age of 7. The convention is, in dealing with cases, that only a child of 12 would be considered to be possibly criminally responsible, which means aware of what she or he is doing and aware of the results of what she or he is doing. Is that something that we feel should be there in law at all in relation to children? That 7 is an age of criminal responsibility. Just a few minutes ago, preparing to come up here on the days, I was talking to colleagues who know more than I know, and they said, no, it's 12. But it's still 7. Along with criminal responsibility, which means that the child understands the implications of his or her act. What about culpability? What about liability? If in the case of those other children, not the Nirbhaya case child, the other children, much younger, at whose hands somebody has died or is reported to have died, did they know what they were doing? If they did, never mind what the law says, on which side does justice lie? And if justice means taking the child into the hands of the state and trying to rebuild something better out of that child's experience and attitudes, who do we have in this country who is equipped to do that? We have no professional counsellors, we have no professional training for counsellors, we have no professional cadre of counselling. So who would be those curative or remedial experts who could turn the child around? We just heard about the Om Prakash case. In the Om Prakash case, the person retrieved his life and has made something of himself. But where are the mechanisms for that to happen in general? So I think that in relation to the death penalty, one has to look at a whole lot of the environmental factors. What are the predisposing faults? According to the way our laws operate right now, there are very, very few cases where a child has actually been held to be an offender and has been made to pay for it as an adult would have, has been punished for it as an adult would have. But even while we deal differently, more gently, with the other children, what you're discussing here is the basic point of should there be a death penalty for anything, for anyone at all. And I think there it's maybe a little bit misleading to start saying children should get a softer treatment than anyone else. They should be let off more lightly while everybody else can have the death penalty. That sort of muddies the argument. And I would say that maybe we need to come back to the basic human rights questions that are at play when we talk about death penalty per se. Somebody should be let off because they're the breadwinner of the family. Not necessarily. Somebody should be let off because they're just 5 months younger than 18. Not necessarily. Somebody should just not be sentenced to death. I think that's the issue before you, and I think a worry that comes to my mind is how do children who may be or may not be potentially on the wrong side of the law, how do they react to this debate? It's happening around them. They see it on media, they see it otherwise, they hear about it. And there is a lot of violence in our society at all ages. So what is the effect of this debate on the person who is still underage in terms of being open to punishment, open to penalties. And I would just leave that as a side thought with you. But I'm not sure when I'm really angry about somebody's misdeed as to whether I would say that no, they should just be given much gentler counseling treatment. There's a case to be made for life imprisonment. There's a case to be made for imprisonment for your natural life. There's a different case being made in favor of death as a sort of a final punishment. So, I'm not pleading for special favors for children. I'm pleading instead that we look at death penalty per se and take a stand against it. Children would learn from the example that we set and the example that we argue for. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Razia, and thank you for being the strong voice that you are on being against the death penalty per se. Thank you very much. Now we have Iftikhar Gilani, who will give you his view on the situation in Kashmir and the death sentence.
Thank you, Human Rights Law Network, and thank you, Colin, for taking up the cause which is so close to our hearts. And recent events have shown us that how important it is to debate and discuss the issue of the death penalty. And when a human being, when he's a social animal, he has to live in a society, and in a society there are people who are bad people, or even who need kind of a reformation, or who do go against the social code of conduct. They need to have a deterrence when there is a government. The government has to also show that it can impose its laws, it can impose its code. So it has been that deterrent has been a necessary. Even if we see ourselves, if we just look into ourselves, there is a little criminal almost in everybody. You must tell me how many times you have jumped this signals on the roads while driving, or how many times.